I don't know why I did this to myself, but I read A Little Life. Welcome to That Book Life. Today I'm going to be taking you on a journey with me. I decided to read one of the saddest books trending for the past year. It actually came out in 2015. It's written by the most incredible woman ever. All my favorite authors are female, and she has made it to the top of the list. But I am talking about A Little Life. This book was, in every sense of the word, heartbreaking, and it took so long to process it, so long to get through it. It completely took over my life for a little bit. Not much else to say about the journey of it. Have fun watching me get through this. So I've decided now is the time to start reading. I never known I wanted to do this video for so long. I think it's September 18th, and I've decided, you know what, now is the time to read the supposedly most depressing book on the planet currently. So kind of timing-wise explanation why I think now is a good time is because my birthday is October 15th, so I definitely want to read it before my birthday, a good while before, and have time to recover from it. However, after my birthday, life gets hectic. I'm going on vacation, I might be moving, and then finals are gonna start basically right after. In November, I have like a competition thing, so it's just, this is like my last chance to kind of read it for a very long time. So, this fat ass book, gonna get through it, gonna start now. I think it's like 9 p.m., maybe not even, maybe 8:30, so we'll see how much I can do tonight. It is a Saturday night, and I decided my social battery ran the fuck out. But let's get reading. Hi, I thought I'd pop in for a very quick update. I'm just shy of 50 pages, so much noise. Oof. I am just shy of 50 pages in A Little Life. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, that's actually nothing because this book is so chunky. Even though this is an 800-page monster of a book, it really doesn't feel that bad as I start reading because the writing is very, very beautiful. I can tell why it has a 4.3 rating on Goodreads. Still, that being said, you hold the book, you see how much there is left, you're just thinking to yourself, wow, this is gonna take a while. Thoughts on the beginning? It really starts off with a bang. I believe it was on page 20 that already it was very deep and a little bit sad what we learn about one of the 4 guys. So it's 4 college classmates, and it kind of so far is following their lives. Of course, we've gotten to know Jude and JB the best so far. It's Jude, JB, Willem, and Malcolm. I knew that. Well, kind of. I guess Malcolm just takes a bit of a backseat in the first 50 pages. The way the author writes pain is extremely poetic, I find. When I was reading about one of the guys' illnesses, I felt extremely connected to him, and also to the friend who was describing what it's like to be there and witness your friend going through so much pain. I think the way the story kind of portrays their different backgrounds and I'm very much at the beginning, but what I've been learning so far about their childhoods and their backgrounds, I really like that usually someone else is describing it or what they thought of that person's childhood, if that makes sense. I am trying to be a little bit vague, right, because this is completely spoiler free. I mean, half of the world, I swear, has read this book, or at least half of BookTube, but I'm very late to the game, so I know that if other people are late to the game, I don't want them to be spoiled by me. But yeah, I have a very busy day today, so I don't know how much I'll be able to read, but I will try my very best to make it to 100 pages. It's been a nice long break since I've done an update and since I've actually read anything. I am not even halfway, and it is September 30th. I really thought I was gonna bang this book out in a few nights, and it just hasn't happened. I'm actually quite sad about how little time I have to read. Lately, I'm so incredibly busy, and I love reading so much with all my heart, but it's just when I'm exhausted, all I want to do is put Gilmore Girls on and nap with my cat. Before, reading would be my relaxing time, but I would still have an episode every other day at least. And now it feels like all I can manage is to watch Netflix because my brain is so numb from everything else I do. It just doesn't feel as fun if I force myself to do it. I don't know. I'm definitely in a slump and sad. I almost feel bad that I chose such a long book, but the book is phenomenal. Like, I am enjoying this so much. I've only tabbed 2 things. So only 2 things have been, the whole book is extraordinary, and I'll preface this moment by saying that. Only 2 moments though have felt so beyond the rest of the book. It is phenomenal. I still say we haven't learned much about Malcolm yet. It's been a lot about Jude. A lot about Jude. I don't mind. I like Jude. Jude has something really exciting going on. Finally, it feels kind of like a light at the middle of the tunnel, I should say, because we still have half of the book left. Everything has a little twist of sadness in it. So right now, something great has happened to Jude. Jude is starting to feel a little more like a normal person, but then when this thing goes to the next level, you again get flashbacks from Jude's trauma and his past, and then it just makes it sad. What's a good thing, a good happy thing for him, turns sad. And another thing I kind of wanted to comment on was at page 400, they're 40 years old. So I really didn't know going into this book how, I wouldn't say fast-paced because it is very long, considering I'm not even halfway full, like I'm not at the 50% mark of the entire book yet, and they're already 40 years old is insane. Are we gonna see them until they're 80? I don't know, but I'm very interested to find out. And I'm exhausted. I'm so tired, but I'm gonna read as much as I can tonight and really try and finish this book tomorrow. Update. I've somehow made it to page 700. But yeah, I just read 400 pages. That was intense. I have 100 pages left. I have not cried. I don't think I will. I know what's coming. It is incredibly depressing. This book just gets worse and worse and worse. The beginning is so depressing, and then you keep reading and it gets more depressing. It doesn't get less, it gets more. My thoughts are everywhere. My head is empty. I don't know what to think. It has been a few days since I finished it. I needed time to process, you know, to decompress, to find happiness again after reading this book. And I think I found it. So I am ready to talk about it with a more clearer mind. Again, I do want to keep this spoiler free, but for this part of the video, I will talk about the characters a little bit. Genuinely, I believe if you read the trigger warnings, you'll find a lot of what I'm gonna say anyway. It doesn't take away from reading the story whatsoever by knowing some of what I'm gonna talk about. However, I am someone who hates any form of a spoiler, so I probably wouldn't watch this part of the video if I were me and hadn't read the book. Now that I've given you that weird disclaimer, let's get into my thoughts. So the first 50 to 100 pages are a little bit misleading in a good way. I liked every single element of the book, and I'll start by saying that. But the first few hundred, or just kind of 100 pages, were 4 friends, Willem, JB, Jude, and Malcolm, going to parties and gossiping and living what would seem like a very normal recent grad life in the thriving New York City. So they've all just graduated from a prestigious school, and that's really where they met. They're all 4 chum-chummies, best friends. And it's very equal at first. Each one of them has issues and things that they're dealing with in their personal life. You just get an insight into it about each one of the 4 friends in the beginning. It's pretty light. I'll say there's some hints of tragedy in the first little bit of the book. It's like she was preparing you for what's coming next, or trying to give you a little taste of it before it takes over the entire book. I was blindsided near the end, even though I knew what was being said about this book, that it's one of the saddest. The beginning just threw me off, and then I forgot what was coming, basically. A brilliant decision in the writing was making the story almost an eternal present day. There's never mention of a big event in politics, any names. There's really only timeless movements or topics that could fit in any recent year and could fit in future years as well, I believe, because it's a very modern way of thinking that Jude, who's basically our main character, I'll say that he thinks. So really it could take place anytime, which I really enjoyed, because even the decor, the setting, New York City stays more or less the same. It was vague enough in the descriptions of the city and in what's happening in that regard that it could basically be happening anytime. The detail really lies on the character development and individually how they progress and the tragedies that build up the foundation of their characters. That's where all the description is, and that can be timeless because a human is a human whenever they are a human. I guess a tiny bit onto individual characters. JB I didn't like. I don't think you were supposed to like him. Even his personal issues with drug use, I didn't feel attached to him. I kind of thought, well, it makes sense. You know, he was an awful person to his friends, and I'm really glad. That's something I really appreciated, was it wasn't one of those perfect friendships with the 4 of them where the pushover will always forgive the asshole. It was near the end they stopped talking because they realized JB is just a bad person. Although one of my, not favorite quotes of the book, but something I really liked, which JB said, is, everyone in New York City has one thing in common, I guess 2. Ambition and atheism. And that was just so funny to me. That was a great line. So JB is funny, I'll give him that. Next on Malcolm, who, like JB, isn't really prominent in the story in the second half till the end. They're there, they're mentioned, but the focus is for sure on Jude, and Willem is there. Just the focus of the story is definitely Jude. But yeah, Malcolm, I don't have much to say about him. I don't know how much value he added near the end. It was more so he needed to be there to make certain things happen to be important later, like Jude's apartment, for example. I'll just leave it at that so it's not a spoiler. There's not much in-depth detail about him later on. On Willem, he was nice. You know, I like that he stood up for his identity and himself near the end by not hiding to the public who he was as a person. Again, being vague, not spoiling, but if you've read the book, you know what I mean. I really appreciated that choice because obviously your career is important. I also felt extremely conflicted because near the end, I wanted him to get out of his hard situation. I really wanted him to have his own happy ending as well, but he was supporting someone who really needed him, and in some moments he was extremely happy. I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know who deserved more happiness or who I wanted to be unconditionally happy, because Willem will always have had something dragging him down, or as bad as that sounds, but the relationship he was in at the end, it just seemed so sad for a majority of it, and Willem deserved happiness. He was a good person. Of course, the other partner in the relationship deserves eternal happiness. They've had a horrible upbringing. I don't know if it was fair for Willem to be put in the middle of that situation, but he chose to himself. I don't know, I felt very conflicted because I was very happy to see them together, but at the same time I really wanted the best for individually both characters. And lastly, on Jude, the lawyer and mathematician, he's just a depressing person. It was so frustrating to read his internal monologue a lot of the time because he doesn't accept that he needs help. He knows there's something off, but he fully blames himself for everything that's gone wrong in his life. Of course, that's because of the abuse, verbal and physical, during his childhood and past that. He was left in a dumpster when he was a baby and taken in by these monks who are the most horrific human people ever. They're not even human, they're demons. And it was tragic. That was a lot of the tragedy of the story. It was focused on Jude. Of course, everyone has issues, but I don't know how that can be a real person. I really hope, I know I'm not ignorant that people go through that. It's just Jude's life was one tragedy after the next. But I'll say I held on to those happy moments so strongly because the happy pages where something good happens and he feels happy and loved and appreciated by his friends and kind of family, those felt almost euphoric as a reader because you want that for him constantly, and it happens and you feel great, and then 50 pages later he is in a depressive state, cutting himself again. On Jude, the self-sabotage and his suffering is constant, and something the author chose to do was really remind you all the time about it, about the ways it impacts his life, about the ways it changes his decision making and his trust of other people and his trust in himself. So much detail in his suffering. It's so directly written. It feels a little queasy and gory because it's no BS, I guess you could say. It's just fully direct what's happening in the situation, what's happening in the moment. And it comes almost every 50 pages. It happens so much, the deep suffering, because I think it's to show the reader it's so constant in his life. It's completely affected who he is as a person and how his character has been developed. And you as the reader should understand that it is always present in his life. Now I'm getting sad again thinking about it. It's incredibly beautiful. You just definitely have to be in a very good place in your life to read this book and survive it. I'm very glad I read it. I think I've learned a lot about good writing and what I like in literature. I've also realized there's nothing like this that I've read, so I really give props to the author for uniqueness. And I'm glad that it's a trending book because it's very important, and I think more people should be talking about impactful and beautiful books like this. But yes, that is everything. I hope you enjoyed this video and my thoughts, and have a lovely day and drink lots of water.